You know, it's such a privilege to be able to work with you guys, to help you when it comes to buying your home, whether you're buying a home or you're just getting a house for investment. Today is going to be all about what you need to know before buying a house.
It's going to be 10 steps that we're going to be sharing with you of how to go through from point A to point Z, how to actually start the process and what you need to do.
Welcome back to the channel. So as you guys can tell, we have a visitor. I have my husband right here, and hi babe.
How are you?
Welcome back to the channel.
Thank you.
So in today's video, as you guys can see, this is going to be a very special topic, guys, because if you've been here, you know that we recently just acquired our home, and it's surprising how we got a lot of questions, a lot of comments, and like I keep telling you guys, my husband is a realtor, and I'm so happy because from this channel we've actually gotten quite few clients from here, and it's such a privilege to be able to work with you guys, to help you when it comes to buying your home, whether you're buying a home or you're just getting a house for investment. We are always here for you. So from a lot of questions we got from few of the videos we already posted, we were like, let's just sit down and treat this topic because it looks like this is something a lot of you guys are interested in. So today is going to be all about what you need to know before buying a house. Like I said, either buying a home or a house, So a house, if you're using it for investments, a home, if you want to live inside the home, So definitely stick around. Let's go ahead and get started. Guys, I know firsthand the stress that goes into buying a home because we just bought our dream home last year, and like I keep telling you guys, it's a lot of processes that you really have to brace up because like I told you, there was a video I did. I told you guys that this process is going to test your patience, it's going to test everything. Like sometimes you might feel like pulling your hair. That is what buying a house entails, especially in 2025, guys. But at least I'm so thankful because like I tell you guys, we invest in properties, but last year was kind of special because we were working towards getting our dream home. When it comes to our investments, my husband, like I trust him 100% with those, with our investments because he's very, very good at it. But when it came to our dream home last year, guys, because personal. it was so personal that it was guys, babe, just to take on from here.
The first thing I told her when we were starting with this process, because again, you're buying an investment, it's a take it or leave it situation.
That's it.
But when you're buying a dream home and you have a lot on the line, and the property is one of a kind,
right?
It's not a situation you can just walk away from.
Right.
But even though that's the case and that was the situation that we were in, the circumstance that we were in, I still maintain what I share with her, and I tell all our clients, and I've done this over the last 22 years of being in business, that is, you have to remove your emotions.
Yeah.
You cannot connect your emotions to a real estate transaction regardless. And I think that your girl here failed the test a couple of times.
Exactly. But the thing is, guys, as a woman, men they see things from another perspective on like a woman, right? Especially like he said, when it comes to your investment, like you can care less. It's like a take it or leave it situation. But when you're planning on buying a home, you walk into that home, you're already designing the home, you're already walking through and saying, this is this person's room, this is the other person's room. Yeah. And it's crazy because when you're doing that, you're already emotionally attaching yourself into that particular property.
Right, it's true. But with all of that, you have to basically make sure that you remove your emotions, because purchasing a house, whether it's going to be your primary residence or it's going to be an investment, it can be a roller coaster ride. Because remember, you're in a transaction that involves other parties, and other factors. There are other people that are involved, not just from the aspect of the seller who's selling you the property, but also other practitioners, attorneys, inspectors, the town, etc. So you have to basically remove your emotion from it,
Right.
and look at the numbers and look at it from an aspect of a strategy.
Right.
And that's how you protect your emotions, because you can actually get drained and really you can lose a lot by by
Sleepless nights. I mean, sleepless nights, guys. Yeah.
So the first step in actually going through this process.
So we have 10
there's,
steps.
There's going to be 10 steps that we're going to be sharing with you of how to go through from point A to point Z, how to actually start the process and what you need to do.
Right.
Now, generally, you see there are a lot of videos and also lists that tells you, and they have the general consensus of what you should do and the 10 steps that you should take when you're actually purchasing a house. But you're going to see a little bit different from our perspective, and certain things I'm going to share with you is from not only 22 years of experience being in the business, but also doing a lot of real estate transactions and representing a lot of clients, both internationally and also here. So the first thing that we need to do and we need to look at when we're purchasing is going to be the location. Right. You hear real estate, they say location, location, location. Now that's very important. Location is the first thing that we look at when it comes to moving forward and buying a house. But underneath that, and including in that location, what's very important is for you to actually look at the GSI zoning map for that location. Because the GSI zoning map is going to give you a scope into what is the planned development for that area. When you're buying a property, you have to be very strategic. When you're going into an area, in a location, you want to know what the city is planning 5 years out, 10 years out, because you're buying a piece of property. You're buying an asset, and you want to see how that, what they do in that location with the anchor pads and commercial and everything that they build around these planned developments will actually lead into the appreciation and the growth of your property. So you want to make sure that you look at the GSI zoning map to just see what's going on. If they're planning a stadium, if they're planning to build another university, if they're planning to build a hospital, if they're planning to build,
a railway.
A railway, which is very important. Because some people actually, you might be moving to a commuter location. Those things actually make the property more desirable, the area more desirable, and can lead to you really hitting a windfall where you're just buying a property and it just keeps going up in value and doubling. We always look at properties that we try to go into areas where the property value is going to double every 5 to 10 years. So you start out with the GSI zoning map. The next thing you want to look at,
and this is even more important before we start talking of the finances and everything, because you have to know the location you're looking at before you even know, how much are homes, how much are the cost of homes in that area. So the first thing is always your location.
So I mean, the thing is, when most people talk about the location, you pick out a town and they say, I want to live in this area. But they don't go further, and that's what I'm sharing with you. You need to go further than that, because when you're buying a house, you got to look at it long term, right? You're going to be holding on to this, most likely getting a mortgage for 30 years for it. So you want to see how you can use that house to grow your net worth over time. The second thing you want to know about when you're moving into a specific location is you want to know what the city inspection process is. So in some cases, you have some cities that are really a nightmare to deal with, and that's a headache that you're going to be taking on. So let's say, for example, you buy a property and it has a basement, finished basement, or your intent is to buy the property, have a finished basement that you can actually use eventually for rental income if you need to. There are some cities that won't allow anybody to live in the basement. They won't even allow anything plugged in, like a stove, or they don't even want to see beds down there. And sometimes they'll randomly do a search. They'll randomly show up to your house. And in some cases, they'll just come up with pop-up inspections. And that can be a nightmare for you that you will actually buy into by not knowing this and by not checking that out. So aside from Airbnb and looking at things such as their short-term rental policies and their regulations, sometimes they want you to get licensed. Sometimes they actually have licensure that goes along with you getting a short-term rental. There are certain caps that they put on how much you can charge, etc. You need to know all of that, but really primarily you want to really find out what their inspection process is and how difficult it is, because even if you're buying it for your primary residence or you're buying investment, you really need to know that. The third thing you want to look at very closely when it comes to location is taxes. Taxes is something that's not going to go away. So whenever you buy a property, your mortgage payment is broken up into 4 parts: principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. Out of all those 4, the only thing that will actually always remain is your taxes. No matter if you pay the house off, you pay your mortgage off, you're always going to have taxes. So if you move into a location and the tax rate is exorbitantly high, and let's say, for example, you move into a location, and then if they don't have a lot of commerce. So what happens is they task the residents more, because they don't have like commercial, they don't have a downtown, they don't have all of those things to offset the taxes. So the taxes, instead of it being split up in a pie,
Right.
and sharing that with the commercial spaces, sharing that with the malls, sharing that with other sectors. They're focusing all on the residential, and they're putting that burden on the community. So if it has a high tax rate, you want to make sure that you try to stay away from those.
Right.
Sometimes it's a balance where you can find properties that are priced well, but then the taxes are high. I would tell you to be careful with those, because if you're in a place where the taxes are very high, you're never going to get away from that. Just keep that in mind.
That's actually very, 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 very important, because like he said, even if you pay off that house, you're always, so it's like you're paying off the cost of the house, you own
the house free and clear.
You own it free and clear, but still you still have taxes on your head.
You have to pay for it. And in some cases, I mean, obviously, if you hold on to a house for a long time, you can always do a tax appeal, but the issue with the tax appeal is that you have to get an appraisal done, and it can be costly, and you have to go before the board. They have a procedure for that, and there's a hearing, and they're going to see if they will grant you a tax appeal. Some people have owned homes in areas for a while, and let's say, for example, in our case, our children are young, so they're going through the process right now of school. So we, as a family, in wherever our properties are, we benefit from the school system, right? Because we're a family that have children that are in school. But there are people in those locations.
And even with your investments too, families are always looking for a good school system, you know. So when you're buying your investment property, you always also have to have that in mind. You know, buying in a community where there's a good school, it's like a good ranking school. It also helps when maybe you're renting out, or even, for your investment, it helps a lot.
Right. So, but then what happens basically is that you, as someone who owns or invests, you may be tasked with helping to pay for that tax rate. And in some cases, let's say you have a house, but then you're in a location that has a good school system, but you don't have children, right? But you're paying for the school system.
That's true. So they're basically robbing you.
You can try to appeal it, but just understand that that's something. That's why we encourage all our clients. We encourage you to actually look into that before you even start the process. Where as you start to search out your location, you're looking at your taxes.
And I feel like that's also why we are here, because I know there are a lot of terms that you might hear. You'll be like, what is that? But when you're working with a trusted realtor, it's like when you're working with a realtor that knows their onion, you basically relax. And that is one thing I really do appreciate about you, sweetie, because when of course I always look back and refer to when the process before buying this house, guys. I mean, there are some nights I'll wake up, I'll be like, what is this? My husband, he will just be like, sweetie, this is why we are here. And it's not just because I'm his wife, right? I've seen this repeatedly with all our clients. It's like, he's so trusted that you just basically relax. Like, if there's anything that is needed for you to provide, he's always there 24/7, guided. Like, you do an excellent job. Like, if you've never heard it before, I'm telling you, sweetie, you're such a, I don't even know the right word to use, but if you're wearing my husband, you definitely deserve a raise because you do such a good job.
I mean, listen, at the end of the day, it's all about serving people. In this life, I share with Omabelletv and I share with my family. You're either known for two things: the problems that you create or the problems that you solve.
Preach.
And for us, it's very simple. This is a service-based business. We're here to serve. We see what the person is looking to do. We see what their goals are. And the idea is to really just make sure that we align with them and help them to accomplish it. And that's the purpose of this, to help people in the greatest investment that they're going to have in their lifetime, to make the proper, decisions, because the one thing with real estate is that you make your money with real estate when you buy, not when you sell. And so it's very important to actually purchase correctly for these factors that I'm sharing with you, because you can set yourself up properly in the beginning to play monopoly with real estate, like what we're doing now, if you do it properly. And I wish that when I started, investing in real estate at 21, I wish someone would have given me this guidance. But now we're here to share and give you and share with you what we're experiencing and what we're in this journey on right now.
I'm so happy you brought that up, sweetie. But I believe there's this video I've already briefed you guys on. Just like he said, he wished he had somebody that told you some of these things while with your first house, when you bought your first house. But one thing I would always say is that you're full of wisdom, because even with your first house, even being so young, you were able to think in the aspect of an investment, even though it was like your property you want to live in, but you also thought about it as investment. And this is something I always tell people, right? Like, if you have an opportunity to buy a house that you will live in, or a house that you can live in and also be able to rent out, I would always go with the second one, because when you buy a house is a liability. It's like every expense, repairs, everything is on you, right? Unlike when you buy a multi-family house where, okay, maybe out of, let's say it's a 2-family house, 3-family house, out of that 3-family house, you take an apart, like you take a level from that, and then you're able to rent the two. Right now, guess what? You're making a positive, like if you think about it, probably if it's on a mortgage, like he said, if it's a 30-year mortgage, which we always do not advise, at least 20 years so that you can pay it off fast, right? But now, if you have a multi-family house, remember we're talking about a single family house or a multi-family house. If you have a multi-family house, you can just take a level and then you rent the two, spaces. And if you think about it, those two spaces might be able to pay off that rent or that mortgage for that monthly mortgage, and you will find out that you're living free. And when you're living free, you're able to save up and save up and save up. And probably if you save up, you're able to acquire more properties. Probably 2, 3, 4 properties in your portfolio, which this is an example I'm giving, but this is practically our life, because I'm just telling you guys how we got here. Because it's funny how sometimes people see you when you're already in a certain place. They don't really understand what you've been through, the steps, the baby steps you took, right? This is I'm giving an example, but this is our life, right? Hobby was able to get a multi-family house with his first purchase. We lived in that multi-family house. The tenants there, we are paying basically the mortgage for there, and we were saving up. And by the time we saved up to a certain to a certain level, we were able to buy other properties. And then when it got to we got to a place where we were like, okay, we already have 4 properties. Now we have to start working towards our dream home. So remember, this is not just, we didn't just wake up and buy this home here. It was a gradual process. It was a baby steps. It was a lot of inconveniences. I always tell people that when you watch my videos, even though I'm so happy that I'm blessed with turning any space into a very beautiful space, right? But also remember, like I told you guys, the house we were in was an apartment in our house that we were using. But when people see my videos, they think it's probably a mansion, because it doesn't really matter whether it's a big house or if it's a small house. Once you have the vision, that's all that matters. So I'm sure I digress, but it's also good to point out these things, because sometimes people are faced with that challenge where you don't know if you should buy a 1-family house or if you should buy a multi-family house.
Yeah, and the thing is, the mentality should always be assets over liability.
That's it.
You need to purchase an asset, because when you are going into acquiring real estate, you want the real estate to be able to work for you. And what that means is you need to buy something that has the ability to pay for itself, and not you have to work for your life to pay for it. So that's why she's recommending, starting out with a multifamily, even if you're doing like a duplex. That's great, because then you're getting the tenants to help pay off the mortgage, and not you paying off the mortgage. So the fourth thing and the final thing that I want to share with you regarding location is you need to make sure that you check out the crime rate. This is very important, because you can have all these things that we talked about. You can have the nice property, you can have the appreciating market, you can have all these things, and the one thing that can come and shut everything down and kill it is crime. Because let's say, for example, you buy a house and you have these grand plans of all the things that you're going to do. You've done all the right things as far as making sure that it's in a good market and all these things that we talked about. But then there's ongoing and growing crime. The stigma is going to drive people from the area. They're not going to come. And that's what you see with some of these cities. People don't want to come to those areas. It drives them away. Now, you have investors that'll go there because they don't care. They're going to put tenants in there. But my point basically is that you need to do that and make sure you check the crime. You can use a website like stopcrime.com in order to be able to actually check that. Just put in the address. It'll give you a quick snapshot of some of the recent things that have happened. There's other tools out there using AI. You can actually learn to know more. But these are all part of your location analysis that we generally do when we're looking at properties, to make sure that we checked up all these things before we start the process further. So the next step in the process of actually buying a house would be knowing your budget. Now, this is very important. I remember when we started to level up, each stage we actually would sit down together and we would look at what the budget would be
Right.
or what we were working with. So obviously, there were times where we had different financial income that was coming in, and also different expenses.
Right.
And so each of those stages we would actually sit down together and actually look at that. Now generally, there are different rules that you can use. You can use the 2836 rule
Right.
to start out. So 2836 rule is for your housing. You don't want your housing to exceed 28%. And then for your expenses and your debt, you don't want it to exceed 36%.
Right.
That's one rule that you can use. There are different rules that you can actually use to start this process. The second step, the budget,
finances.
is for you to actually locate yourself.
Right.
So before you do anything and start to have these dreams of a house and what you can do, you need to locate yourself. And this is important because sometimes you may preclude yourself from starting the process because you think that it's like
you're not
up to it.
Yeah.
And that's
or
where you can
your
deceive
finances
yourself.
is not even up to
because there are a lot of different programs and things that you can do that you will be surprised that you can actually move into a home sooner than later.
Right.
But the most important thing is for you to at least get a snapshot of where you are with this. So we generally use our budget template, which we include in our 5-bundle planner.
Right.
You can actually get that by clicking the link in the description. And what we do is we sit down and we actually have this broken down from by month. We have a monthly budget. But aside from that, we also have mortgage calculator as well as a debt calculator in there. And you can really sit down and get a snapshot by plugging in everything of what you're working with. And so you can use the 2836 rule if you decided to, but it's important for you to actually know what your monthly
what you're bringing
is.
in,
And that's going to be really important when you start to move up the ladder and move into the next level.
Right.
Now, I will share this. If you're buying a single family property, the entire mortgage and the entire burden of debt will be on you, like what Omabel said earlier. Now, if you're buying a multifamily, depending on the lender that you're dealing with, in many cases, they will use between 75 to 80% of the projected rental income towards your income.
True.
So this is one of the reasons why what she shared regarding buying a multifamily is important, because you will definitely be qualified for more. By buying a multifamily than you would with a single family. And now they also have some other criteria that you can do that. You can use the projected rental income, provided that the property that you are purchasing is not within 100 miles. The departing income of the property or the property's location may play a factor, but generally the lenders may use the rental income that's coming in on that property to count towards your income.
And just like he said, budgeting is very, very important. I feel like, especially when you're on a paycheck, or you have a family, you have a lot of things going on, always being able to lay everything down. I know some people are so used to using their computer or but for me personally, I love to lay everything down, right? So we're able to see. And also with budgeting, there are some certain things that take it into our finances that we're not even aware of, like eating out, like apps. There are just some certain things that you can cut down while you're monitoring your budgeting. Budgeting is not just, when people say budgeting is not a big deal. You just have to lay it down, and then it gives you a visual knowledge of how, your money is being spent. And also when it comes to that, I'm very, very big. Like, I love savings, guys. Like, oh my gosh, I'm the type of person that I just love to save, right? And when you budget, you're able to see, okay, this is my monthly expense, this is what is going out, this is what at least I can save, because that also plays a very big role when you're buying a house. Because
it's very important. It also establishes discipline with your finances, because like in our case, for example, we have different variations that we use. But for an example, the 50-40-10 rule, we have used that in the past. And so, like what she shared, we started to do this. We would sit down with our template and we would start to plug in. And we were really surprised as to how much money we were losing by these ancillary, silly expenses that we were making on a monthly basis. And so when you look at some of these fast food chains, or you look at Starbucks, etc., and Dunkin' Donuts, you see them, breaking records and having record years and revenues. And the supermarkets stuff, they actually have these small amounts that you're paying them, and that's why they actually be able to beat Wall Street and make multi-billion-dollar operation. So what happens is, when you are buying, you want to have as disciplines established, and you want to start to pulling the reins, where you are saving more
Right.
and you're pulling in more and you're retaining more, because you want to make sure that you have money going into the property, you have money for expenses that may come up,
Right.
requirements from the lender that may come up throughout the process.
Closing costs.
Yeah, so we'll get to that. We'll talk about closing costs, but you need to make sure.
Oh my
And so that's why watching and budgeting and using, you can test out by using our template
Right.
to plug in the numbers, and it'll automatically start to show you, okay, this is what I'm left with at the
Right.
end of the month. And this will start to position you and locate you so that you
Structure
know how to
the
move
thing.
forward.
Yeah.
So the next thing you want to do is you need to locate where you are via credit. So what you need to do is go to a website called myfico.com, and what you're going to do is you're going to pull your credit.
Yeah.
Now, generally, you want to make sure and you want to be in the neighborhood of having a credit score of 620 or higher
Yeah.
in order to be competitive when it comes to purchasing. If your credit score is in the 580 range, you want to see how you can start to get that up to the neighborhood of 620, because that's the neighborhood where the lenders will actually be able to, look at, to really help you to be able to start to get pre-approved for a property. And then also too, you'll be more competitive when it comes to your interest rate, etc., when it comes to taking on a mortgage from a lender.
Right.
So you want to check and locate yourself. When you pull up your MyFICA report, it's going to give you your credit scores from all three bureaus, and you can start to review that. And when it comes to this, I'm a big proponent of DIYing your credit and credit repair. So in some cases, I can share with you with the lenders that we work with, and when you're working with, in our operation, we help you by giving you directives of how to repair your credit on your own. So we have, a free debt credit repair guide, which we can give that to you. We also have a credit repair package, which is really simple. There are letters that are there, especially when it comes to medical. You can actually have those things taken off your credit by, knowing how to go around the process. So again, we have that. We can help you with all of that. We can provide that for you. Just basically request it. But I would tell you that if you pull your credit, go to MyFICA, get an idea, get a snapshot of what you're working with and what you're dealing with. Then for each bureau, what they have on there, any derogatories, any things that are really either they're past their time, they're past the statutory limit. All these things you can actually start to address and use that. Now, I will tell you that we also have credit simulators that we work with to help you put you in there and then raise your score.
Right.
Different things that can be done to help you bump your credit up, boost your credit to prepare you to purchase the property.
Yeah, and like he said, you guys, you saw how I did my eyes when he talked about credit, because that was so strange to me. Like, credit has always been a very strange word to me until, he started to put me through it. And of course, when I started, I was like a blank space.
I don't know why. Can I tell you?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So what I can't go into the full detail,
Yeah.
but I will tell you this, that Omabelletv started with zero credit. She had no credit.
Yeah.
So when you pull her credit report, there was nothing on it. She had no credit. She had completely virgin credit and had to be established.
Right.
One of the ways that we did this was she piggybacked.
Yeah.
So because I had established credit and I had purchased real estate, etc.
Right.
She piggybacked off me,
Yeah.
and we were able to really through time. We had a strategy.
Right.
Now this strategy involves, like I shared from the budgeting, you have to be disciplined,
Right.
but also knowing certain things about credit,
Right.
which we have had to study
I
and
was
know over
literally a
time.
novice, yeah.
Exactly. So she piggybacked off me, and what I did during that time with her piggybacking off of me, I made sure that our credit utilization stayed between 2 and 3%.
Yeah.
So now some people will tell you, ideally your credit utilization should be no more than 20 to 30%.
Right.
But for us, it's better if you just follow what we're telling you,
Right.
because if you keep your credit utilization very, very low,
Yeah.
it shows more discipline and responsibility, and you'll have more people wanting to give you more money, and
Right.
it shows you to be more creditworthy.
Right.
And also the fact that she was piggybacking off me and I had established accounts,
Yeah.
that really helps. So her credit right now is the best that you can get.
Yeah.
Obviously, we can't say the number, but it's
Right.
very, very
Very
high.
high.
And that was how we were able to do that. So we teamed up. So now she came on with her credit
Right.
growing
Right.
and getting to where it is now, so we can acquire, buy more property and more
properties.
assets.
Yeah.
So that's one way you can do. You can piggyback. So the next thing you want to do after pulling your credit is you want to get with a reputable and reliable mortgage banker or mortgage lender. This is very important. Now this can be the real game changer for you, because when you're getting with the right mortgage banker and mortgage lender, they can make the difference between making your life, really
hell.
hell or heaven.
Yeah.
And that's important, because when you get with the right person and they have, the right not only perspective when it comes to business, but they are not unscrupulous. They have a good reputation, and also they have sound programs and sound backing. That's going to make a difference for you, because sometimes people, and I can tell you, I've shared this with her all the time. There are people who get with the wrong mortgage lender, and they can't close. No. They go through the entire process, they spend all this money, and then everything falls to bits because the lender is not reputable, the lender can't deliver. So sometimes lenders will be out there, they'll be telling you, oh, we can do this, we have this program, we can do, they advertise, but then their track record, they don't close.
When it comes to, to fulfilling their promises, it's zero.
And not only that, they can't deliver. They can't deliver the package, they can't help you to get from from your offer to closing on the house. So you need a lender that can actually close. So with that, it's very important for you to actually work with the right lender. And when you start the process, the first thing you will do is have a conversation. It's going to be a very quick conversation. During that conversation, you're going to share some information they're going to ask you for. And what you want is you want to actually have a soft pull on your credit done. Generally, with our lender, what they do is they'll speak to you. They'll get an idea of scope. It's a very quick 5-minute conversation, and they'll do a soft pull. So it's not a hard pull on your credit at all, but it's a soft pull. And in that case, by them seeing from that soft pull, they're able to give you and generate a pre-approval. And you need a pre-approval in order to shop for properties. In order to get out there and purchase properties on the market, on market, off market, the sellers need to be able to see something from a reputable lender that you qualify and you have the wherewithal to be able to purchase. If you're just going out to, you're shopping for a property and you have no pre-approval, you're going to actually, waste a lot of time, and you're going to lose out on a lot of properties because a lot of lenders, a lot of sellers, they're going to go with those people who are coming with pre-approvals. So by you having a soft pull done, having a pre-approval generated, is going to position you now to start the process. Now, when you're starting this process, working along with the lender, if that lender is a sound lender, they will have access to different programs, such as first-time home buyer programs. Now, if you're a first-time home buyer, there's a program called FHA, and this program allows you to be able to put down 3.5%. So when you're purchasing a house, there are different programs that are available, depending on where you are and depending on who you are and your length of history in real estate. If you're a first-time home buyer, you can utilize FHA. FHA is for everything residential from 1 to 4 units. So that's when she talked about us buying multi-units, and I started buying multi-units before I started my family, before I met Omabelletv, and that was utilizing some of these programs, because with FHA, you're able to buy up to 4 units, and you can put only 3.5% down. So imagine you're buying a 4-unit property. You're putting down 3.5%. You stay in 1 unit. You rent out the other 3. And if you buy it correctly, the other 3 can not only pay for your mortgage, but it can give you cash flow. So you're living for free.
And
you're generating positive cash flow. And what she said earlier, you position yourself. You go and get another property. You rinse and repeat the process, and you're playing Monopoly. So this is why we recommend buying a multifamily. But all these things culminate in what we're sharing with you. So working with the right lenders also gives you access to down payment assistance programs. So you heard Omabelletv talk earlier about closing costs. So part of the process of you purchasing your property, you're going to have closing costs. So these are things that will really cost money, that really are part of the process of you closing on a house. And that can involve title, other things. But my point is that there are down payment assistance programs that can actually help offset those costs that you may be required to have. So depending on the program that you're going for, FHA generally requires between 3 and 3.5% down. VA loans can vary. Generally, VA loans, some VA, they are 100% financing. And so in those cases, the lender will then, they may ask the VA, and the VA is for military, those who are actually have gone through the military, and that's they have the ability to use a VA mortgage to be able to purchase. They have to find a seller that's willing to take it, but the lender can actually work with you to be able to get your closing costs returned to you via VA mortgage. Conventional mortgages are mortgages that really will require for you to have 5% down, 5% and up down. And so that is a mortgage that sellers also favor. They find that conventional, sometimes in some cases, although it's not, they have the perception that conventional is stronger than FHA, because FHA has certain requirements that if you take on an FHA mortgage and the seller accepts it, FHA has certain guidelines that have to be met. So in the case with an FHA mortgage, for example, when the FHA mortgage is issued, the FHA mortgage will not go up, they will not exceed the appraised value of the house. So if you're a seller and you accept someone that's coming to buy via FHA, they're going to send an FHA appraiser out.
Right.
That appraiser is going to go through, and then he's going to take pictures. He's going to come out of that and create a report and give a valued appraisal of that house. But he's also going to cite certain things. So certain things such as chip paint, your railing being loose. They want those things repaired.
Fixed.
So sometimes sellers want to sell for a high amount of money, but they don't want to deal with the headache of FHA. So if you come with an offer and you have FHA, they may turn you away and wait for someone who's coming conventional. So just something to keep in mind that these are some of the things that go with these different type of loan types. But the reality of the situation is that working with the right lender can kind of set you up so that you have exposure to be able to get access to down payment assistance programs. Also, there are grant programs. As you know, we work a lot with grants. So there are grant programs that are available that will help you towards your purchase. Some grants, like for example in the state of New Jersey, some grant programs can give you up to $22,000. And a grant is something that you don't have to pay back. So this is money that you get, you do not have to pay it back. And so it's something that by working with the right lender and getting set up properly, you not only have access to making sure that this person has the ability to close you, but also they have the ability to give you access to all these different programs and help you with these programs that can attach. Because sometimes based on your location, you may be able to get a combination of everything. You might be able to get a combination of a down payment assistance program as well as a grant depending on the location. So it's something to be very aware of.
So the next step into buying your home or your investment property is working with the right realtor, guys. I can't stress this enough, and this is where we come in.
Yeah, and we can work with you. So I can't stress it enough, and not because we're agents and we're operating in this, but in hindsight, if I had established the right relationships with strategic realtors early on, our portfolio would be far gone. Because having the right realtor, having the right person who's tapped into the market is invaluable. This is someone that is a relationship that can be really invaluable for you. Because think about it, if you are whatever, you're a doctor, if you're a lawyer, or any practice that you're in or any job that you're in, you're doing that full time. And if you're working with a full-time agent, they're doing that full time. So they're tapped into not only the market, they know what's happening in the market, on market, but then also off market. There are opportunities for seller financing. Like for example, with properties that we've purchased that were not on the open market. So there are different creative
before they
financing.
even come to the market, you're already
before they come to the market, off market, there's a lot of transactions that happen off market. And so you want to tie in and have a relationship with the right realtor, because that realtor can be an invaluable resource for you. We talked about the lender, not just the lender, but they also have access to first-time homebuyer programs. They have access to programs that can really help you to be able to move, navigate the process and save money on purchasing your home. So, working with the right realtor can be invaluable. They can not only help you to find and locate the right property, but also they have access to inventory that you will not be able to find elsewhere. They have access, in our cases, we are also rent-to-own realtors. We help you with rent-to-own, and we help you to find rent-to-own homes. We help you with first-time home purchases. We help you with rent-to-own homes and also investment property. So we run the entire gambit, whether it's residential or commercial. So it makes a difference who you work with, especially those who are actually tapped into the market. And also have your best interest. Because at the end of the day, you want to work with someone who's not just trying to get a commission. You want to work with someone who actually wants to help you change this chapter, but set you up so that no matter what happens, you're going to be okay in the future.
And just like what he's saying, right? That is one thing that sets us apart, because we are relationship based, guys. We are the family that, when you use us, right, you're free to refer your aunt, your uncle, your husband, your mom, your dad. Like, it's all about relationship. I mean, when you give somebody an excellent service, guess what? You don't even need to market yourself, because they will take it on themselves to refer you to a family member, because they know that you're trustworthy. So this is not just, about just realtors. When you do an excellent job, whatever business you find yourself or whatever career you find yourself. It's, the giving your that excellent service is always very, very important, because it's kind of you marketing yourself without marketing yourself. Because when, like I said, when you give somebody an excellent service, there is an open door for more to come.
It's true. And then also too, you want to make sure that the person is knowledgeable and also network. So for us, we're able to operate all around the country, right? Because we're networked.
Right.
We work with other sellers, we work with investors, sellers, agents all around the country, and we're able to we have good relationships with them. So if we are doing a deal, on the other side of the country, we're able to actually make a phone call, have everything facilitated without physically being there. So that's why we're able to service anyone all around the country with what we do with our services. So the next step is actually, now once you actually have your realtor, and hopefully you're going to decide to work with us, next step is for us to find you a house. Now with finding a house, we've already given you some metrics that we look into in preparing prior to that. But finding a house, the first thing that we want to look at is market appreciation. Because at the end of the day, when you purchase this property, you want to be able to go into the house with equity, hopefully, but also stay there with your family. And the years that you stay there, as you go to work, go home, go on vacation, the house is going up in value. It's your silent partner in growing your net worth. The next thing you want to look at is that it's in a good rental market. So you want to make sure that the market rents, or the rental market in that location is growing. Why? Because you want to make sure that any property that you get, if you decide to rent it, you can make a lot of money. You don't want a place where the rents are stagnant. You want a place where the rental market is actually growing and going up.
So now you have the house. The next thing is the budget really comes into play, because you have to know, okay, this is how much I'm willing to spend on a house. This is how much I'm willing to, let's say you say, okay, I don't want to exceed 200,000. I don't want to exceed 100,000. It's always good to have a cap, so that way you're able to stay within budget, right? Unlike you're saying, just find me a house. I mean, you already have a realtor. The next thing the realtor, of course, is going to ask is, what is your budget? What kind of house are you looking for? So always have that at the back of your head. And I always tell people that, for me personally, I do not, how do I put this? Always remember that your budget can, and I don't know if you guys watched the vlog when we went, house shopping and things like that, and you could see that the area where we were looking for, it was that small tiny house that was almost 600,000, right? So the location matters, and also your budget. So let's say you're looking at a place where you can see that it's very expensive, like 200,000 can buy you the type of house you're looking for. You can move a little bit away from there to be able to get more bucks for your money.
Right, sure. And the thing is that, again, what you've done here by following these steps, by the time you get to this point of finding a house, you've now surrounded yourself with a good team. Because with the right realtor and the right lender, they're going to be working together to make sure that you're protected. But this budget template that we use comes out several times throughout the process. Because not only when we do locate ourselves in the beginning, when we finally get the house and we are looking at putting an offer on it, we bring it out. Because like what she shared, we want to make sure that we're looking at not only the overall purchase price, but we want to look at what the monthly projected expenses are. Bringing the budget back in once you find and locate the house is very important, because it's going to now go from an aspect of, okay, I'm buying a $400,000 house, a $500,000 house, to, okay, I'm buying this property, we found it, we're going to put an offer on it, and this is what I'm looking at monthly. And this way you're able to see it in front of you and realize and look at it and see if it's something that you can do.
Another tip is HOA. Like, you can't, HOA is something that I know a lot of people, even us, we frown at HOA because, just like he said, there are just some expenses when it comes to buying a house that can go away, and there are some that are going to be there.
Right. So the HOA, again, I don't know I really don't know what my relationship is with HOA, but I can tell you that with HOA, it all depends on the location. So HOA, for those who don't know, is homeowners association fees, and so these are, again, planned communities that were established. And as a part of those communities, they made it a requirement that they would establish a homeowners association. And there are fees that they accrue, that is a monthly fee that each of the members have to pay. And it's something that's perpetual, it's attached to your residency in that location.
I'm sure this video is already up there, but we just want to make sure that we have everything in one package for you guys. So hopefully you're still here with us.
Also, in finding the house, as I mentioned earlier, you want to ideally try to stay away from flood zones. So you always want to check out the FEMA flood map. You can talk to the agent. If we're working with us, we're going to share with you and we're going to talk to you about that. Try to stay away from flood because that really, water is not good for a property. Now, of course, depending on if you're buying an Airbnb and you're doing like a micro resort, or you're doing something that is meant for that. That's different. Then you get either 100-year or 500-year flood insurance. We can help you with all of that. But if you're buying a primary residence or an investment property, we try to encourage you to stay away from flood areas because they can be problems for you.
Oh, yeah.
And you not only have the expense of paying for the flood insurance, but also the issues that can come when there is a flood.
Right.
So it's something that you want to be
always
aware
have
of.
it, at the back of your mind.
So the way the process works is once you get your offer accepted, then the next step is now you're moving into what we call attorney review or title review.
Right.
So you always want to have a legal practitioner involved in the process to look over all the documents, look over the proposed offer. And so once the seller accepts your offer and the contract is signed by both parties, it goes over to the attorney if you're going to have an attorney close the deal, or in the case where it's a title company, it goes over to them, and then they'll start to facilitate a review process.
Right.
During that review process, they're going to look over the documents, and in some cases, if you use an attorney, they're going to approve or disapprove of the contract. They'll go back and forth, and then they will do what is called a conclusion of attorney review.
Right.
After the conclusion of attorney review, then it proceeds to a home inspection.
Right.
So the home inspection is really important because if you're buying any property, you want to make sure that it's inspected.
Right.
Now, if you're buying a property and we're working with you, let's say, for example, you're buying a rehab, and it doesn't matter, you're going to gut everything, then it still doesn't matter. But we still encourage there's some sort of inspection by someone who's versed, especially when it comes to checking the foundation.
Right.
To
because
make
there
sure,
are some things
because there's structural foundations that you can't see by the naked eye.
Exactly.
Yeah, so you want to get someone who's versed in that. Now, also, too, if you're in the Northeast and you are buying where there were previously a lot of oil tanks in the ground, you want to have something done called a tank sweep. So there's a tank sweep company that'll come out. They have like a wand, they have a machine, and they will actually scan the ground to scan for metal, large objects, and also to find if there's any underground tanks. Why this is important? This is important because if you actually purchase a property and you buy with a tank in the ground, to pull that tank out of the ground, you can't just pull the tank out of the ground and have just the metal.
Yeah.
You have to do what is called soil remediation. So that means that you need to test the ground and the soil for oil contamination, just like they do in gas stations.
Right.
And that could be a $60,000 job. So that's why it's important for you to actually do a tank sweep.
Yeah.
Pay $100, get a tank sweep done to avoid that headache. The other thing is during that process, the lender is going to be working with the realtor, and they're going to order your appraisal. The appraisal is very important because it's going to establish a value for the property. So let's say you're buying a house, the seller's asking for $500,000 for the house. When the appraiser comes out, if the appraiser can't find comparables and they can't value the house at $500,000, then you'll know. And then at that point, you have to go back to the seller and say, look, we had the appraisal done. The property is not worth $500,000. You got to come down. They either will negotiate it, so yes or no, and then you'll have your notice of what you need to do. So after the appraisal, then you actually move up to the lender review. So the lender will take in the appraisal, start to review the process. During this process, after they get the appraisal in, then they're going to start to work closely with you on now getting all your documents that you need, because the next thing that they're queuing you up for is to send you over to the underwriter. So there's a process that the lender goes through to prepare you so that you can get the mortgage commitment. But prior to that, they need to get all your documents in, but they wait until the appraisal comes in. So the appraisal comes in, you'll see that then lenders will start requiring more documents of you to prepare you. And once they get that, then they're going to start to inform you of, okay, at this point now we need to start talking about what your interest rate is going to look like. So then at that point they're going to start talking to you about locking in your rate. So the market is always fluctuating, but when you get into this pocket of time, this is when the lender's going to start saying, okay, this is the window of time that we can now secure what your rate will be. That rate will determine what your monthly payment is going to be. If you get a 7% interest rate versus a 3% interest rate, it's going to make a huge difference in what your monthly payment will be. So during this process, they're going to ask you for documents, make sure everything is in, so they can queue you up, so they can try to get you closer towards getting your mortgage commitment settled. After the lender gets everything in and they go through the process with the underwriter approves it, they're going to give you what is called a mortgage commitment. Now, generally, after your mortgage commitment is issued, you really can queue yourself up to close within like 10 days, or so. because everything is in at that point.
Yeah.
They got titled in and all of that stuff. Title sometimes holds the process up, but they can actually do all of that within that span of time. The things that you need to do after you get your mortgage commitment, leading up to your closing, you're going to actually need to get homeowners insurance. So you need to be aware of that. You're going to have to shop around to get homeowners insurance. We have sources that we can refer you for your homeowners insurance. They operate nationwide, and we'll be able to get those and provide you with that. We'll also provide you with a list of things that you need to do and be prepared for prior to closing when you after you get your mortgage commitment. And so we will make sure that you're queued up for that, so that when you go to closing, you're not just going to closing and then you're not prepared. There's things that are exactly. You're prepared, and you to be honest with you, you're really going to need to have your insurance paid. The lender won't close. They're going to need to actually have a debt page, and they're going to have to be included as an endorsee on that page to allow you to close.
Right.
So there are requirements that a lender may have to work along with us as your agent or your realtor, whoever you're using, to help you to be prepared so that you go to closing with everything that you need. And the final step is you go to closing. So when you go to closing, you're going to be either doing with a title company or you're going to do with an attorney. If he has an attorney, they're going to have a package ready for you either way. Generally, they may have a notary public there, or they may have an in-house attorney do it.
Right.
But they're going to give you a closing package. You go through, you sign your documents. One thing you want to make sure you look for is you want to make sure, and you want to ask them about your deed recording. The deed is very important. The deed is, you have your mortgage and you have your deed.
Right.
Your mortgage is really, to be honest with you, just really an indication of what an IOU, what you have to pay them. But your deed is where your ownership is.
Right.
So sometimes they won't have the deed prepared at that time. And if they don't, you want to find out from them, okay, is there preliminary time where I can expect the deed to be recorded? And that deed needs to be recorded, in the town, where you live. So once you go through the closing process, you really will have been informed by the attorney or the title company. If there's any questions or what have you, they'll let you know about anything that you need to be aware from the lender. And once the lender finances and sends the funds in the wire, then you close, and then you get the keys, and then that's when you see the people with the keys and the celebration, and they're closed.
Look all the processes.
There's a lot of process that go through to be able to get to that point, right? I know.
Oh my God. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah. I mean, it varies. If you're doing, we do cash transactions sometimes. Cash transactions are faster, but at least this gives you a rundown of what it is when you're buying a property. We wanted to give you the whole scope of it, everything.
You might see this video now, but when you're finally ready, just come back to this video because it has everything. I believe we covered everything that you need to know. And we think that's it, right? That's it. You already have your keys. Congratulations!
Congratulations to you.
All right, guys. I hope this video was helpful. Thank you so much, sweetie, for coming in here, because I couldn't have done it alone. I mean, there are some jargons, there are some things that he's a very well-seasoned realtor. Like I told you guys, I'm just like I'm just floating. I'm just learning little things from him. I was telling you guys that I probably have to go and get my license, But yeah, guys, I hope you guys found this video helpful. Definitely let us know in the comment section if there's still anywhere you're not clear, or anywhere you need help. Definitely put it down on the comment section. And also, if you need to reach out to us, if you're thinking of buying, selling, we're here for you guys. So definitely all our information is going to be right there in the description box. And I believe that is all there is to this video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed, and till my next video, I will see you all very, very soon.